In the quiet suburbs of Maplewood, a sleepy neighborhood where children rode bicycles on the sidewalks and neighbors waved from their porches, the late afternoon sun painted the streets gold. The air smelled faintly of freshly cut grass, and birds chirped lazily from the trees lining the avenue. It was the kind of place where nothing ever seemed to happen, where people left their doors unlocked, and neighbors knew each other by name. At the heart of this calm street lived 7-year-old Emily Parker, a small girl with curly brown hair and wide, inquisitive eyes. Emily loved the little things in life, a ladybug crawling on a leaf, the soft hum of a lawnmower, the warmth of her dog's fur as he slept beside her. That afternoon, she was swinging gently on the backyard swing, humming a tune she had made up herself, blissfully unaware of the tension creeping into her otherwise ordinary world. The tranquility shattered suddenly. A low rumble of police sirens approached, growing louder with each passing second, echoing off the brick houses and manicured lawns. The neighborhood dogs began to bark, and car alarms briefly screamed before fading into the distance. Parents called their children inside. Neighbors gathered on sidewalks, whispering anxiously. The news had already spread through town. A child had gone missing earlier that morning from a nearby street. Panic had settled over the community like a heavy fog, and the local police were leaving nothing to chance. Emily's mother, Sarah, appeared in the doorway, her face pale with concern. "Emily, come inside," she urged, her voice gentle but firm. Emily hesitated, glancing toward the street. She noticed the flashing lights of police vehicles converging at the end of the block, and a large, imposing figure standing beside one of the officers, a dog, black and tan, with sharp eyes and an aura of quiet authority. This was Rex, one of the department's most skilled K-9 units. While most children would have been frightened, Emily felt an unexplainable pull toward the dog. She tilted her head, studying his steady stance. There was something about him, something almost human, in the way his gaze seemed to observe the world. Sarah followed her daughter's eyes and sighed, a mix of relief and anxiety washing over her. "Be careful," she murmured, and Emily nodded, stepping lightly down the swing-set ladder. Rex's handler, Officer Daniels, was a tall man with a calm demeanor, accustomed to chaos yet skilled at maintaining control. Today, however, even he seemed slightly taken aback. The neighborhood was buzzing. Officers were coordinating a search, and every second mattered. The missing child could be anywhere, and the pressure on law enforcement was immense. Yet Rex, trained to remain focused under stress, showed a flicker of something unusual. His gaze shifted from the approaching officers to Emily, his ears perking up slightly. Daniels noticed it too. "Stay back," he called softly to the onlookers, but Emily was already stepping forward, drawn inexplicably to the canine. She stopped a few feet away, her tiny hand outstretched. "Hi, doggy," she whispered. The voice was barely audible over the chaos, but Rex's response was immediate. He tilted his head, studied her intently, and for a brief moment, the world seemed to freeze. Officer Daniels frowned, muttering under his breath, "Well, that's unusual." The dog was trained to respond to him, not civilians, especially not children. But there was a spark in Emily's eyes, a quiet confidence, an instinctive calm, and it seemed to reach Rex in a way that no command could. The tension on the street was palpable. Neighbors whispered and pointed, some filming the scene on their phones, their curiosity piqued by the unusual interaction. Sarah, Emily's mother, held her breath. She had never seen her daughter act like this, fearless and focused amidst chaos. Emily, however, was completely absorbed. She stepped closer to Rex, not speaking, simply standing and letting her presence communicate a silent message. The dog's eyes never left hers, as if recognizing a connection deeper than simple obedience or training. Across the street, other officers were preparing their equipment. Flashlights, search ropes, and evidence kits were arranged meticulously. A drone hovered overhead, broadcasting the scene to the local precinct, while patrol cars blocked off streets to ensure no one wandered into the search area. Yet despite all the technology and manpower, something about Emily and Rex drew attention away from the instruments of law enforcement. Even Officer Daniels, a seasoned handler with years of experience, felt a twinge of disbelief. He had worked with Rex through countless high-stakes scenarios, and he had never seen him respond like this. Not to a child, not in public, not in any situation. Emily knelt slowly on the sidewalk, extending her hand gently toward Rex. "Good boy," she whispered again, though not in praise, simply as a means of communication. Rex stepped closer, inch by inch, his posture attentive, yet controlled. The dog's tail flicked slightly, a sign of both focus and anticipation. Emily's calmness contrasted sharply with the frantic energy surrounding them. The crowd, now quiet, sensed something extraordinary was unfolding. It was as though time had slowed, allowing this silent exchange between child and canine to take center stage. Even the media present could hardly capture the moment accurately. Cameras focused on flashing lights and moving officers. But the real story was in the stillness, the unspoken bond forming between Emily and Rex. Reporters whispered, trying to interpret what they were seeing. "Is that? Could it be?" murmured one. Spectators shifted uneasily, half expecting the dog to retreat or act unpredictably. Instead, Rex stayed calm, seemingly attuned to something beyond human comprehension. And then, as if sensing the gravity of the moment, Emily spoke two simple words. The words were quiet, yet they carried a weight that defied explanation. "Follow me." Rex's reaction was immediate and astonishing. He lifted his head, ears alert, eyes locked on Emily's. The officers froze in surprise. The dog, trained to obey commands from humans, particularly his handler, seemed to understand the instruction from Emily perfectly. There was no hesitation, no distraction, only an unwavering focus. It was the beginning of something that would soon capture national attention, a story of courage, connection, and intuition, bridging the gap between innocence and experience, between child and animal. As Emily and Rex prepared to move, the neighborhood held its breath. The officers, though trained for countless emergencies, recognized the unexplainable bond before them. Parents clutched their children closer, neighbors exchanged anxious glances, and the missing child's fate hung delicately in the balance. Emily's small voice, paired with Rex's instincts, had become a beacon of hope in a moment otherwise filled with fear. And in that quiet, magical moment, amidst flashing lights, murmuring crowds, and the tension of a police operation, Emily and Rex took their first steps together into a story that would soon be told across the nation. A story of a little girl, a police dog, and two words that changed everything. The streets of Maplewood were alive with tension as Emily took her first tentative steps toward Rex, a police dog whose reputation preceded him. Rex was a German shepherd, sleek and muscular, trained to follow complex commands, track scents across miles, and respond to even the faintest signals from his handler, Officer Daniels. His fur gleamed in the fading sunlight, his eyes sharp and calculating. Emily, small and fragile-looking in comparison, seemed an unlikely partner in the unfolding investigation. Yet something unspoken tied them together, a connection that defied explanation. Officer Daniels approached cautiously, noting the subtle but unmistakable focus Rex displayed on the little girl. Normally, Rex would respond exclusively to his handler, yet now, with Emily merely standing a few feet away, he seemed attuned to her presence in a way that startled even a seasoned professional. "Stay back, Emily," Daniels instructed gently, but his voice carried the uncertainty of a man witnessing something unprecedented. Emily, however, wasn't frightened. Instead, She regarded the dog with a quiet confidence, as if she already understood what needed to be done. The neighborhood, usually quiet in the late afternoon, had transformed into a scene of controlled chaos. Police cars lined the streets, their lights reflecting in the windows of homes. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, whispering in hushed tones, while others stepped onto porches, trying to glimpse the unfolding drama. Even from a distance, it was clear that Rex's behavior was extraordinary. While the officers were preparing to deploy search patterns and map out the investigation, Rex was focused solely on Emily, almost impatient, as if waiting for her signal. Emily's mother, Sarah, watched from the doorway, her heart pounding. She had always known her daughter had a special way with animals, but this was beyond anything she had ever imagined. Emily had a natural calmness, a sense of purpose in her movements and gestures. Her little hand extended slightly, her voice soft but deliberate. "Hi, doggy," she whispered again. This time, Rex responded with a subtle but unmistakable acknowledgement. A flick of his tail, a tilt of his head, and a shift in stance that made Officer Daniels stop mid-sentence. "Did he just—" one officer muttered, not finishing the thought as his eyes widened. Rex's behavior was extraordinary. Despite years of rigorous training, he appeared to understand the unspoken language between him and the girl, responding not to commands, but to intuition. Officer Daniels, who had handled Rex through countless critical incidents, couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and disbelief. He knew the dog's abilities, yet what he was witnessing now was outside the realm of training manuals. Emily, sensing the dog's responsiveness, took a cautious step closer. Her small hand moved gently, almost in a guiding gesture rather than a command. "Good boy," she whispered again, a phrase of comfort rather than direction. Rex responded immediately, his ears perked and eyes bright, as though he were waiting for the next cue. Officer Daniels, sensing the moment's gravity, motioned for other officers to hold their positions. "Let's see what happens," he said quietly, his voice tinged with both anticipation and disbelief. Meanwhile, the community began to notice the unusual interaction. A few neighbors stepped closer to the sidewalk, smartphones in hand, recording what they saw. Conversations paused mid-word. Even the children who had been playing outside grew quiet, sensing the importance of the moment. From the crowd's perspective, it was almost surreal. A small girl standing before a massive, powerful police dog, yet holding the dog's attention effortlessly. Some whispered about the child's bravery. Others speculated about the dog's extraordinary training, but no one could explain the silent understanding that passed between them. Emily spoke again, this time softly and deliberately. "Follow me." The words were simple, barely audible over the distant sirens and murmurs of the crowd, yet they carried an unexpected weight. Rex's reaction was instantaneous. His head lifted, his body tensed slightly, and his gaze locked on Emily with unwavering focus. It was as though he recognized authority in her, an authority not born of age or position, but of instinct and trust. Officer Daniels froze, realizing that what they were witnessing could change the course of the investigation. The scene intensified as Emily began to move slowly down the street. Rex followed her precisely, not in the mechanical obedience of trained commands, but with an almost human understanding. Each step she took, each slight gesture of her hand, guided him. The officers followed closely behind, their hearts racing. Every instinct told them that the missing child's safety could depend on the next few minutes. They had trained for years, yet here, a 7-year-old girl seemed to hold the key to navigating the complex maze of streets and hidden alleyways. Emily's calm presence had a profound effect on Rex. While other dogs might have been distracted by noise, strangers, or movement, he remained focused. His movements were deliberate and controlled, mirroring the little girl's pace and rhythm. The bond between them was unmistakable. Officers whispered to each other in disbelief. "I've never seen him respond like this," said one. Another added, "It's like he knows her. Like he understands everything she's thinking." The words captured the essence of a phenomenon that defied conventional understanding. As Emily and Rex proceeded, the officers began to organize their search teams around them. Some took nearby streets, ensuring no avenue was left unchecked. Others stayed back to communicate with the precinct, relaying updates and coordinating resources. Helicopters hovered above, casting beams of light that cut through the fading afternoon, and drones captured aerial footage of the unfolding scene. Yet despite all the technology, the true focus was on the pair moving steadily ahead, the small girl whose courage and intuition guided a police dog trained to respond to danger. The moment grew more intense as Rex paused briefly, sniffing the air. Emily's eyes narrowed slightly, and she repeated her two words softly, "Follow me." The dog responded instantly, bolting forward with renewed energy, his movements precise and purposeful. Officers sprinted to keep pace, their breaths shallow with adrenaline. The neighbors who had gathered watched in silent awe, unable to look away. This was no ordinary police search. It was something extraordinary, almost magical, a demonstration of trust, intuition, and courage in its purest form. Emily's mother, still standing on her porch, felt a mixture of pride, fear, and amazement. Her daughter, small and delicate, had assumed a leadership role no one could have anticipated. She watched as Emily guided Rex toward the area where initial evidence suggested the missing child might be. The dog, unwavering and focused, responded without hesitation. Officer Daniels, moving carefully behind him, whispered into his radio, This is incredible. She's leading him exactly where we need to go." And so, as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the Maplewood streets, Emily and Rex continued their silent, extraordinary partnership. One step at a time, guided by two simple words, they navigated the chaos of flashing lights, anxious onlookers, and the urgency of a missing child investigation. What had begun as a quiet suburban afternoon had transformed into a moment of extraordinary heroism, where innocence, intuition, and loyalty combined in ways no one could have predicted. For those watching, it was the beginning of a story that would captivate the entire community and eventually the nation, a story of a little girl, a police dog, and the uncanny connection that would prove pivotal in saving a life. The calm of Maplewood had been shattered, but in its place, a spark of hope had emerged, carried forward by a child who spoke two words that no one, not even the most trained professionals, could ignore. The tension in the Maplewood streets was nearly palpable as Emily and Rex moved forward, their unusual partnership capturing the attention of everyone present. Emily's small figure led the way, and the dog followed with unwavering focus, his paws hitting the pavement in perfect rhythm with her steps. Officer Daniels and other officers trailed behind, struggling to keep pace while simultaneously taking in the extraordinary scene unfolding before them. Neighbors and onlookers whispered excitedly, unsure of what they were witnessing. A trained canine responding with precision to the guidance of a child. Emily stopped briefly near a corner where the street split into two narrow alleys. The scent of damp grass and fallen leaves filled the air. She looked at Rex and whispered, just barely audible over the sounds of sirens and murmuring onlookers, "Follow me." The words were simple, yet they carried a command more powerful than any police directive could. Rex's ears twitched, his nose lifted, and in a split second, he moved decisively toward the left alley. Officers glanced at each other in disbelief. Normally, Rex would require specific hand signals or verbal commands from Officer Daniels. Yet here he was, acting on Emily's quiet guidance. Officer Daniels felt a shiver of both awe and anxiety. He had handled Rex through countless emergencies, but nothing had prepared him for this. This is extraordinary, he murmured to himself, watching Emily gesture subtly with her hand, leading the dog further down the alley. Emily moved slowly, deliberately, her eyes scanning the surroundings with a careful determination that belied her age. She had no idea why Rex responded so instinctively, yet the connection between them felt natural, as if she could communicate with him without words. The officers, while cautious, followed closely, knowing that every second was critical. The missing child's life could depend on the outcome of this search. They moved quietly, allowing Emily and Rex to lead the way. Onlookers had begun to retreat to safe distances, their whispers filled with amazement and disbelief. A few brave neighbors captured the scene on their phones, sharing videos that would later circulate widely, though at that moment, everyone was simply focused on the girl, and the dog moving with a purpose that seemed almost supernatural. Emily paused again, her voice softer this time, repeating the same two words, "Follow me." Rex responded instantly. His body tense yet controlled, his gaze fixed unwaveringly on Emily. The dog's tail flicked once, then remained steady, a signal of concentration and anticipation. Officer Daniels could hardly believe what he was witnessing. He leaned closer to another officer, whispering, "I've worked with Rex for over 6 years, and I've never seen him respond to anyone like this especially. Not a child." The search intensified, as Emily and Rex navigated a series of twists and turns through the back alleys and side streets of Maplewood. Emily moved confidently, guiding the dog with a combination of subtle gestures and those magical 2 words. Every time she paused, Rex paused. Every time she whispered, he responded. The officers observed carefully, documenting the movements for both evidence and future analysis. Each step brought them closer to a breakthrough, yet the air was heavy with suspense. One wrong turn could mean losing the trail entirely. Emily's small hand occasionally pointed toward clues others might have missed. A torn piece of fabric caught in a bush, a small footprint in the mud, or a faint trail of a bicycle tire pressed into the dirt. Rex responded instantly to each subtle indication, sniffing and signaling to the officers where to investigate. The teamwork between them was seamless, yet astonishing. Emily never hesitated, never second-guessed herself, and the dog's loyalty and instinct seemed to amplify her own innate intuition. It was as if they shared a silent language that no one else could understand. As they rounded another corner, Emily froze. Ahead, in the shadows of a narrow walkway, lay a small red scarf bright against the gray pavement. Her eyes widened slightly, and she repeated the words again, "Follow me." Rex sniffed the scarf, his ears flicking back and forth, signaling discovery. Officer Daniels and the other officers arrived quickly, examining the clue. It was a piece of evidence that might have been overlooked without Emily's guidance. The realization sent a ripple of astonishment through the group. The girl's intuition, coupled with Rex's training and instincts, had identified something critical. The moment drew the attention of the local news crew, which had been stationed nearby. Cameras zoomed in on Emily and Rex, capturing the surreal scene. Reporters whispered into their microphones, narrating what they saw: a child directing a trained police dog with nothing more than a few words and quiet gestures. The story was unusual, yes, but the emotional resonance was undeniable. Viewers at home would later be captivated by the courage and composure of this little girl, who seemed to hold an extraordinary power, not over the dog, but over the situation itself. As Emily led Rex further, the dog's responses grew sharper, almost anticipatory. He seemed to understand not just the words, but the meaning behind them, the urgency, the focus, and the importance of the mission. Every bark, every pawing at the ground, and every alert from Rex was amplified by Emily's guidance. Officer Daniels could hardly believe it. "It's like she's directing him telepathically," he muttered under his breath, half in awe, half in disbelief. The officers followed silently, letting Emily and Rex set the pace. Every movement was a delicate balance of caution and determination. The city's quiet streets, normally filled with the chatter of neighborhood life, had become a stage for something extraordinary, a partnership between a child and a dog that defied conventional understanding. Each step they took was deliberate, each pause purposeful, and every whispered "follow me" propelled them closer to uncovering the truth. Emily's confidence never wavered, despite the attention and the gravity of the situation. She was completely absorbed in guiding Rex, aware that the stakes were high, yet unafraid. Her small voice, repeating the two simple words, seemed to resonate with the dog in ways no training could teach. And as Rex moved with precision and focus, the officers realized that the outcome of this search depended not solely on their experience or expertise, but on the extraordinary bond between a child and a canine. Finally, after what felt like hours but had only been minutes, Emily paused again. She looked at Rex, whispered, "Follow me," and the dog darted forward with renewed intensity. Officer Daniels and the team caught up just in time to witness Rex pawing at a patch of dirt near the edge of a small creek. Emily knelt beside the dog, pointing subtly, her eyes wide with realization. This was it, the breakthrough they had been hoping for. Rex's instincts, guided by Emily's intuition, had led them to the first critical evidence in locating the missing child. The gravity of the moment sank in for everyone present. Emily, small and seemingly fragile, had taken the lead in an investigation that involved dozens of officers, sophisticated equipment, and countless hours of planning. Yet here she was, directing a highly trained police dog with nothing more than her calm confidence and two simple words. The crowd of neighbors and reporters watched in stunned silence, recognizing that they had witnessed something extraordinary, something that would become the talk of the community, and, eventually, the nation. Emily's quiet authority, combined with Rex's keen instincts, had transformed a tense and uncertain search into a controlled, focused pursuit of the truth. Officer Daniels finally spoke, his voice tinged with awe. "I've never seen anything like this in my career," he said softly, as he knelt briefly to pat Rex, who remained alert yet calm. Emily's mother, Sarah, clutched her hands to her chest, tears welling in her eyes, realizing the full extent of her daughter's courage and composure. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon and shadows stretched long across the Maplewood streets, the partnership between Emily and Rex had reached its first critical milestone. The missing child's trail had been found, thanks to a remarkable collaboration born of trust, intuition, and two simple words: "Follow me." The neighborhood would later recall this moment as the beginning of an unforgettable story. A story that demonstrated the extraordinary potential of courage, innocence, and the unbreakable bond between a little girl and a police dog. The late afternoon shadows stretched across the quiet streets of Maplewood, turning familiar corners into pockets of mystery. Emily and Rex moved with purpose, their unusual partnership holding the attention of everyone nearby. The dog's paws pressed against the pavement with measured precision, and his ears twitched at every sound. Emily's small voice, calm yet commanding, repeated the words that had already demonstrated extraordinary power: "Follow me." Each repetition carried weight, guiding Rex as he navigated the maze of streets and alleys that could hide vital clues about the missing child. Officer Daniels and the team followed closely, their movements careful and deliberate. They were trained to take charge in high-pressure situations, yet here, a 7-year-old girl led the way, and they had no choice but to trust her instincts. Emily's gestures were subtle, a tilt of her hand, a shift of her weight, but Rex responded instantly, as if he had a mind attuned only to her. The officers whispered among themselves, astonished. "I've never seen him behave like this," one muttered. It's like she's speaking his language. The neighborhood watched with a mix of curiosity and awe. Residents had gathered cautiously on sidewalks, some clutching their phones, capturing video footage they could hardly believe. Children peeked from behind bushes, whispering to their parents about the tiny girl who seemed to command a massive, powerful police dog. Emily moved with confidence, unafraid of the attention, her focus entirely on guiding Rex through the winding streets. It was clear to everyone that the stakes were high, yet Emily's calmness seemed to imbue the scene with a sense of hope. As they turned a corner, the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves became more pronounced. Emily paused, bending slightly to observe a faint trail of footprints, partially obscured by debris. She pointed subtly, whispering the words once again, "Follow me." Rex immediately sniffed the trail, his tail stiff, and moved forward with urgency. Officer Daniels and the other officers approached carefully, noting how the dog's behavior was entirely unlike his standard training response. He was not merely following commands, he was reacting to Emily's intuition, reading her cues with a precision that defied explanation. The search led them to a narrow alley lined with overgrown shrubs. The alley seemed unremarkable, yet Emily's eyes scanned it with an intensity that suggested she sensed something others could not. "Follow me," she whispered again. Rex sniffed the air, then the ground, his movements deliberate and controlled. The officers followed cautiously, aware that any misstep could compromise the search. Despite the growing tension, Emily remained composed, her small hand gesturing subtly, guiding the dog through the hidden pathway. Emily's mother, Sarah, watched from a safe distance, her heart hammering in her chest. She could see her daughter moving confidently, leading Rex with a determination that belied her age. Sarah whispered a prayer under her breath, marveling at the courage her daughter displayed. Emily, unaware of the gravity surrounding her, remained focused entirely on the mission. Her eyes scanned every nook and cranny, every shadow, every glimmer of evidence. Her quiet confidence seemed to give Rex strength, guiding him with an invisible thread of trust. The officers were not idle. They fanned out slightly, scanning the surroundings for anything suspicious. Flashlights swept across the darkened corners, and radios crackled with updates from other units stationed nearby. The local precinct had mobilized fully, yet all attention was drawn back to the small girl and the dog navigating the alley with an almost supernatural sense of direction. Their progress was slow but deliberate, each step a careful dance of intuition and instinct. Suddenly, Rex stopped abruptly, ears pricked, tail rigid. Emily paused as well, her eyes narrowing as she observed the ground. "Follow me," she whispered again. The dog moved closer to a patch of disturbed dirt, pawing at the ground and growling softly. The officers hurried over and examined the area. There, partially hidden under leaves and twigs, lay a torn piece of clothing, a clue that could be linked to the missing child. The discovery sent a ripple of excitement and relief through the group. Emily's instincts and Rex's training had converged to produce a critical breakthrough. The neighborhood gasped collectively, some stepping back to give the search team space, others craning their necks to witness the unfolding miracle. The news crew captured the moment on camera, narrating live as Emily knelt beside Rex, pointing gently toward the evidence. The dog's obedience and precision were astounding, responding solely to Emily's gestures and words. Officer Daniels shook his head, muttering under his breath, "She's remarkable." And so is he? The bond between child and canine had proven more effective than any human-led search effort could have been. Emily's focus never wavered. She examined the torn fabric carefully, then pointed subtly toward the creek that ran alongside the alley. "Follow me," she whispered again. Rex bolted ahead with precision, navigating the narrow bank with the agility of a seasoned tracker. The officers moved swiftly, but cautiously behind them. The sound of rushing water mingled with the low murmur of the crowd and the distant sirens, creating an atmosphere charged with suspense. Each step brought them closer to uncovering the missing child's location. As they progressed, Emily occasionally paused to scan the surroundings. Her instincts guided her toward subtle signs that others might overlook. Footprints in the mud, a faint trail of bicycle tires, a small scuff mark on a tree trunk. Rex responded to every cue, sniffing and pawing the ground, signaling to the officers where to investigate. The teamwork between them was seamless, yet extraordinary. Emily's intuitive leadership, paired with Rex's trained instincts, created a synergy that no one could fully explain. The officers began to recognize the significance of Emily's role. They documented every movement, aware that what they were witnessing was not merely a routine search, it was history in the making. Emily, a child no older than 7, had led a highly trained police dog through a complex investigation, producing tangible results. Every whisper of "follow me" amplified the dog's focus. Each gesture directed him with precision. The officers felt a mixture of pride, awe, and humility at the realization that sometimes extraordinary outcomes arise from the most unexpected sources. As dusk fell over Maplewood, the scene became more dramatic. Shadows lengthened, and the fading sunlight cast a golden glow over the alleyways and streets. Emily's small figure, illuminated by the flashing lights of police vehicles, seemed almost ethereal. Rex followed her guidance unfailingly, his movements precise, his instincts sharper than ever. The officers, aware of the importance of the moment, maintained vigilance but allowed the child and dog to take the lead. Every discovery, every subtle cue, every whisper of "follow me" moved them closer to the missing child and the resolution of a tense, anxious day. Finally, Emily and Rex reached a small clearing near the edge of the creek. The dog paused, sniffing the air and pawing at the ground. Emily knelt beside him, her eyes wide as she pointed toward a faint movement in the distance, a sign of the missing child. The officers rushed forward, hearts pounding, as Emily's calm yet determined guidance had led them to the breakthrough they had been desperately seeking. Rex remained attentive, alert to Emily's instructions, ensuring the child's safety until the officers could intervene. The neighborhood erupted into whispers of amazement and relief. Emily, small and unassuming, had become the linchpin in a complex investigation. Her courage, intuition, and quiet authority, combined with Rex's extraordinary instincts, had turned a desperate search into a carefully guided mission. For the officers, neighbors, and reporters who had witnessed the event, it was a lesson in the power of trust, patience, and the unexpected brilliance of a child's insight. As Emily and Rex led the way, the sense of anticipation was electric. Every step carried weight, every whisper of "follow me" propelled them closer to resolving a crisis that had gripped the community. And while the missing child had yet to be found, hope now glimmered brighter than ever. A hope born from the remarkable partnership between a little girl and a police dog. A bond that would soon make headlines and capture the hearts of the nation. The clearing near the creek was quiet, yet charged with tension. Emily knelt on the damp grass, her small fingers brushing over the mud, her eyes scanning every detail with the intensity of someone far older than her 7 years. Rex sat alert beside her, ears pricked, tail stiff, responding instantly to her slightest gestures. Officer Daniels and the other officers approached cautiously, giving the child and the dog space. They understood the situation. Emily was guiding Rex toward something critical, and any interruption could jeopardize the discovery. The air was heavy with anticipation. Emily's gaze fell upon a partially hidden patch of earth near a tangle of reeds. She whispered the 2 words that had already demonstrated their uncanny power. "Follow me." Instantly, Rex sprang into action, sniffing the ground and pawing at the dirt with precision. The officers leaned in, some kneeling, others holding flashlights to illuminate the area. The dog's behavior was extraordinary. Every pawing motion, every low growl, signaled that he had found something important. Emily's small hand pointed subtly toward the clue, her focus unbroken. It was a small, torn piece of clothing, red and frayed at the edges, half buried in the mud. The sight of it sent a ripple of relief through the officers, though none spoke immediately, mindful of maintaining order around Emily and Rex. The discovery was subtle, yet significant. Every professional instinct told the team that this was a turning point. The missing child's belongings had been found, and the trail was now tangible. The officers exchanged glances, some disbelief lingering in their eyes. No advanced technology, no strategic planning had uncovered this. It was the combination of Emily's intuition and Rex's training that had led them here. Emily remained calm, almost serene, even as officers examined the clothing carefully. She patted Rex gently on the head, whispering, "Good boy." The dog wagged his tail slightly, but remained alert, sensing there was more work to be done. Officer Daniels knelt beside Emily, his expression a mixture of admiration and amazement. "Emily, you've been incredible," he said softly. "I've handled Rex through dozens of investigations, but I've never seen him respond to anyone like this." Emily merely smiled faintly, returning her focus to the trail ahead. The neighborhood, watching from a safe distance, murmured in astonishment. Children peeked from behind bushes, parents whispered, and reporters documented every detail. The unusual partnership between a little girl and a highly trained police dog was both captivating and inspiring. It was a story of courage, intelligence, and trust, the kind of story that didn't just make headlines, it touched hearts. Emily's calm authority had guided Rex to what could be the key evidence in locating the missing child. Officer Daniels radioed the precinct with the update, his voice measured but tinged with disbelief. "We've found a critical piece of evidence. Stand by for further instructions." The child, she's leading Rex directly to it. The officers began to expand the perimeter, ensuring that nothing would interfere with the search. Emily and Rex moved slowly, deliberately, toward the next location, guided by instincts and subtle cues. The dog's focus never wavered, and Emily's quiet guidance was flawless. Every step they took brought them closer to the missing child. The creek, winding through the neighborhood like a ribbon of silver in the fading light, added complexity to the search. Its banks were uneven, muddy, and scattered with debris from earlier rains. Most children would have hesitated to navigate such terrain, yet Emily moved carefully, balancing herself with nimble steps. Rex mirrored her movements, attentive to her rhythm and gestures. Officer Daniels followed close behind, aware that their every motion could make the difference between success and failure. Emily's courage was extraordinary, her intuition guiding not just a dog, but an entire investigation. A sudden rustle in the reeds caught Rex's attention. His tail stiffened, his low growl signaling discovery. Emily crouched low, whispering the same two words once again, "Follow me." Rex moved closer, sniffing the ground methodically. Emily's eyes lit up as she noticed a small figure curled near the water. A child, shivering and frightened, but unharmed. The missing child had been located, hidden among the reeds, too scared to call for help. Emily's calmness and careful guidance had led Rex to the breakthrough that officers had been seeking for hours. The officers rushed forward, gently lifting the child to safety. Sarah, Emily's mother, appeared at the edge of the clearing, tears streaming down her face as she watched her daughter and the dog perform what seemed almost miraculous. The neighborhood, witnessing the culmination of the search, erupted in a mixture of cheers, gasps, and tears. Cameras flashed, capturing the incredible moment. A little girl, a police dog, and the discovery that would resolve a tense and frightening day. The child, now safe in the arms of an officer, looked at Emily with wide, grateful eyes. "You found me?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Emily nodded, smiling gently. Rex sat nearby, alert but calm, his job completed yet still attentive. Officer Daniels patted the dog's head, acknowledging his exceptional performance and the unexplainable connection he shared with Emily. "You both did something extraordinary," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "This is beyond training. It's instinct, trust, and courage combined." News crews captured interviews with officers and neighbors, all emphasizing the remarkable nature of the discovery. Reporters repeatedly asked, "How did a child guide a police dog to critical evidence?" Yet no one could fully explain it. Emily's courage, her calm demeanor, and her subtle guidance had made the difference. Rex, trained to respond to commands, had somehow understood and followed her instinctive leadership. The community marveled at the partnership, a bond that had led to life-saving results and left everyone in awe. As evening fell, the search team wrapped up their operation. The missing child was safe, reunited with their family, and the investigation now had concrete evidence thanks to the keen observation of Emily and the extraordinary instincts of Rex. Officers debriefed quietly, reflecting on the events. Emily had been calm, precise, and focused throughout, guiding a highly trained canine with nothing more than 2 simple words. It was a demonstration of intuition, bravery, and a level of connection that few had ever witnessed. Emily's mother, Sarah, embraced her daughter tightly, whispering words of pride and relief. Emily's small hand rested on Rex's head, gently stroking his fur. The dog responded with a soft, contented sigh, as if sharing in the quiet triumph. The entire neighborhood had witnessed a miracle unfold, an ordinary child accomplishing the extraordinary, guided by nothing more than instinct, bravery, and a bond with an extraordinary dog. By nightfall, the story had already begun circulating through local news channels. Social media buzzed with videos of Emily and Rex, highlighting the unlikely duo's heroic efforts. Headlines praised the child's courage and the dog's responsiveness, framing the event as a heartwarming tale of partnership and heroism. Emily, unaware of the fame she had earned, simply looked at Rex, whispered, "Good boy," and smiled softly. The dog wagged his tail slightly, acknowledging the praise, but remaining alert, as if ready for the next challenge. The discovery of the missing child and the critical evidence marked a turning point in the investigation. Officers praised Emily and Rex for their extraordinary contributions, noting that without their combined efforts, the search could have taken far longer, and the outcome might have been uncertain. The little girl had demonstrated leadership, calmness under pressure, and an intuitive understanding of the dog's behavior that left professionals in awe. It was a reminder that heroism could come from the most unexpected sources, and that trust, patience, and courage could achieve the seemingly impossible. As Emily and Rex were escorted home, the neighborhood erupted into applause. Children waved, neighbors cheered, and reporters captured the iconic moment, a child leading a dog to uncover critical evidence, changing the course of events in a way no one could have anticipated. Officer Daniels smiled quietly, reflecting on the extraordinary bond he had witnessed. Emily had spoken 2 simple words, "Follow me," and the result was nothing short of miraculous. In that moment, Maplewood would remember Emily and Rex as heroes, not because they were trained or experienced, but because they had listened, trusted, and acted with courage and intuition. The discovery of crucial evidence, the safe return of the missing child, and the unwavering focus of a young girl and her loyal dog became the story of the year. And though the community would continue to buzz with excitement, one thing was clear. This was the beginning of an unforgettable journey, one that would later captivate the nation. The courtroom was packed, buzzing with anticipation and whispers that filled the high-ceilinged room. Spectators, reporters, and families of those involved in the case had gathered, eager to witness the proceedings that would soon unfold. The missing child had been safely recovered thanks to Emily and Rex, but the legal process was far from over. The suspect, now in custody, sat silently at the defendant's table, guarded and tense. His eyes flicked nervously toward the front of the courtroom, where the judge was about to enter. Emily sat beside her mother Sarah, her small hands gripping the edge of the wooden bench. She had been instructed to remain calm and composed, but her heart raced with anticipation. This was the first time she had ever entered a courtroom, and though she had displayed remarkable courage during the search, the gravity of the legal setting was different. Her mind wandered briefly to Rex, who was sitting obediently near Officer Daniels, ready to assist if needed. The bond between child and dog had been extraordinary, and everyone in the courtroom knew it. The judge entered, a tall, stern figure whose presence commanded immediate attention. Gavel in hand, he called the court to order, his voice firm but steady. "This court is now in session," he declared, scanning the room. The audience quieted immediately, the hum of nervous anticipation giving way to silence. Emily's mother squeezed her hand gently, whispering, "You're doing great, sweetheart." Emily nodded, drawing strength from the reassurance and from the calm presence of Rex, who remained alert and watchful. The prosecutor began presenting the case, recounting the terrifying ordeal of the missing child and the efforts of the law enforcement team to recover them. Witnesses described the chaos of the search, the frantic efforts of neighbors, and the moments of hope and despair that had defined the day. Then came the moment that everyone had been waiting for, the introduction of the little girl who had guided Rex with a remarkable instinct and 2 words: "Follow me." The courtroom fell silent as Emily was called to the stand. She rose slowly, her small frame steady despite the attention. She walked carefully to the witness box, where the judge nodded encouragingly. Emily's mother watched from the front row, pride and anxiety etched across her face. The defense attorney, seated nearby, frowned, clearly surprised that a child was about to testify. Reporter cameras clicked and whirred, capturing every movement, every expression, every heartbeat of suspense. Emily climbed into the witness chair, her eyes bright but focused. She took a deep breath, recalling the events of the day, the search, the guiding of Rex, and the 2 words that had changed everything. "Can you tell the court what happened that day?" the prosecutor asked gently. Emily nodded, her small voice clear and unwavering. "I told Rex to follow me," she said, her words measured but calm. "He listened, and we found the missing child." The simplicity of her statement carried immense weight. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. People leaned forward in their seats, struck by the clarity and courage of the young girl. Officer Daniels, seated beside Rex, nodded silently, affirming the truth of her words. The prosecutor encouraged Emily to continue, and she spoke with honesty and detail, recounting how she had observed clues, guided Rex through alleys and across the creek, and discovered the critical evidence that led to the child's rescue. Every word was precise, every gesture deliberate, revealing the extraordinary bond between Emily and the dog. The defense attorney rose, attempting to question Emily, but his voice faltered in the face of her composure. How did the dog know what to do?" he stammered, clearly searching for a way to undermine her credibility. Emily looked at him with quiet confidence. "Rex knew I was helping," she said simply. "I told him to follow me, and he did." The room went silent again. Her words were simple, yet they conveyed a truth that no technical argument could dispute. The dog's instinctive response, combined with her calm guidance, had led to the discovery and rescue. The prosecutor emphasized the impact of Emily's actions. "Your Honor," he said, "this child's bravery and quick thinking saved a life." Without her guidance and the extraordinary cooperation of Rex, the outcome could have been tragically different. The judge nodded, clearly impressed. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath, the tension palpable, as everyone realized the significance of Emily's testimony. The small girl who had spoken 2 words to a police dog had become a pivotal figure in the case. Emily recounted the moment she had found the torn piece of clothing and noticed subtle signs leading to the child's location. Rex was very careful, she explained, pointing subtly toward the dog sitting obediently beside Officer Daniels. He sniffed everything, and I helped him know where to go. I just whispered, "Follow me," and he understood. The courtroom erupted into quiet gasps and murmurs. It was impossible not to be moved by the combination of innocence, intelligence, and bravery displayed by a child barely taller than the witness stand. The defense attorney attempted another line of questioning, trying to suggest that Emily's role had been overstated, but witnesses and officers corroborated her account. Officer Daniels stood and recounted the events, explaining how Rex had responded to Emily's guidance with precision and instinct, beyond the scope of normal K-9 training. Neighbors, police officers, and the family of the rescued child all testified, each emphasizing the undeniable role of the young girl's calm authority in achieving a successful outcome. The courtroom atmosphere grew almost reverent as Emily described the final moments of the search, the moment when Rex pawed at the reeds, signaling the location of the missing child. "I knew we were close," she said softly. "I just told Rex to follow me one more time, and then we found them." Tears glistened in Sarah's eyes, as did in several other parents observing the scene. Emily's composure remained, yet the emotional weight of her words filled the room with awe and admiration. The judge, clearly moved, addressed the courtroom. "This is a rare and extraordinary case," he said, his voice solemn. "The bravery and intuition demonstrated by this young girl, combined with the exceptional skills of a trained police dog, have resulted in a life being saved. This court recognizes the significance of her actions and the courage it took to act in such a situation." The courtroom seemed to exhale collectively, the tension replaced by a sense of wonder and admiration. Emily's small voice concluded the testimony. "I just wanted to help," she said simply, her eyes glimmering with the honesty and innocence of a child. The words resonated deeply with everyone present, reminding all that heroism often comes from unexpected sources, and that courage does not depend on age or size, but on heart and instinct. Rex, sitting beside Officer Daniels, gave a soft bark, as if acknowledging the importance of Emily's words and the role he had played. The media erupted immediately after the testimony, the story spreading rapidly. Social media buzzed with clips of Emily speaking to the dog and recounting her brave actions. Headlines praised the little girl and her extraordinary partnership with Rex. The courtroom had witnessed something unprecedented. A child's calm intelligence and 2 simple words guiding a highly trained police dog to a life-saving discovery. Emily had captivated not only the jury and the judge, but the entire community, showing that courage, trust, and intuition could achieve the extraordinary. By the time the court adjourned for the day, Emily and Rex had become symbols of hope and bravery. People in the courtroom whispered to each other, inspired by the story of a little girl whose simple words, "Follow me," had changed the outcome of a tense and frightening case. Officer Daniels walked Emily and her mother to the door, Rex faithfully at their side. Reporters clamored for interviews, but the focus remained on the quiet heroism of a child whose courage and intuition had captured the hearts of an entire community. The courtroom, once a place of tension and dread, had transformed into a stage for awe and admiration. Emily had not only testified with remarkable clarity and composure, but had also reminded everyone that heroism can be quiet, subtle, and profoundly impactful. 2 words spoken with calm authority had guided a police dog, uncovered crucial evidence, and ensured the safe recovery of a child. It was a story no one would forget, a story that would soon make headlines nationwide, inspiring countless people with the extraordinary courage of a little girl and her loyal companion. The courtroom was tense as Emily finished her testimony, yet the reaction that followed was unlike anything anyone could have predicted. The judge, jury, and spectators sat in stunned silence for a moment, absorbing the weight of what they had just witnessed. Emily, small and composed, had described in clear, unwavering detail how her two simple words, "Follow me," had guided Rex to critical evidence and ultimately saved a child. The extraordinary courage of a 7-year-old and the extraordinary instinct of a police dog had left the room collectively breathless. Then came the reaction. The judge, a seasoned figure who had seen countless trials and testimonies, leaned forward slightly, eyes wide with amazement. He paused, as if struggling to find words that could encompass what had occurred. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice measured but laden with awe, "what we have witnessed today is nothing short of extraordinary. A child's courage, paired with the instincts of a highly trained dog, has not only led to a life being saved, but has also demonstrated a level of trust and intuition that defies explanation." The words reverberated through the courtroom, filling the air with a mixture of reverence and disbelief. Members of the jury exchanged glances, some mouths slightly agape. They had come prepared to hear a conventional case involving evidence, statements, and legal arguments. Instead, they had witnessed a remarkable collaboration, a 7-year-old girl guiding a police dog through a high-stakes search, interpreting subtle signs and making split-second decisions that ultimately changed the outcome of the investigation. Whispers filled the room as jurors leaned toward one another, unable to fully comprehend the gravity of what had transpired. The prosecutor, his own voice tinged with awe, stepped forward to emphasize the significance of Emily's role. "Your Honor, if I may," he said, "the courage and intelligence demonstrated by this young girl are nothing short of heroic. Her ability to calmly assess the situation, recognize critical evidence, and guide a trained canine through a complex and dangerous environment is unprecedented. She has not only contributed to the safe recovery of a child, but has also demonstrated a natural leadership and presence of mind that exceeds what we would expect from anyone, let alone a child of 7. Officer Daniels stood to add his perspective. His voice, calm yet reverent, described the incredible bond between Emily and Rex. "Your Honor, I've trained Rex for years and have seen him respond to the most challenging situations," he said. "I've never seen him respond to anyone like this, especially not a child. Emily didn't just command him. She communicated with him in a way that transcended training. It was instinct, intuition, and trust combined. Without her guidance, we may not have located the missing child as quickly or as safely." The defense attorney, usually assertive and quick to challenge witnesses, found himself momentarily speechless. He attempted to question Emily's reliability, but the overwhelming evidence, corroborated by officers and witnesses, left him with little room to argue. The audience, captivated by the story unfolding before them, leaned forward in their seats. Cameras flashed, and reporters whispered into microphones, capturing every expression and reaction. The courtroom itself seemed to hold its breath, suspended between disbelief and admiration. Emily remained composed throughout, sitting calmly in the witness box, her small hands folded neatly in her lap. She had recounted the details of the search, the discovery of critical evidence, and the rescue of the missing child with remarkable clarity. Now, she observed the reactions around her, aware that her words and actions had made an indelible impression. The bond she shared with Rex had been extraordinary, but the response of the courtroom was unprecedented, filled with emotion and awe at the courage displayed by someone so young. Then came the most unreal moment, a collective gasp from the courtroom when Rex, responding to Emily's subtle hand gesture from across the room, moved forward slightly and nudged the edge of the witness stand. It was a small, almost imperceptible action, yet the effect was electric. Spectators murmured, jurors blinked in surprise, and the judge's expression shifted to one of disbelief mingled with wonder. The dog's instinctive connection to Emily had been evident throughout the search, but now it was visible even in the sterile, formal environment of the courtroom. The media captured the moment live. Social media buzzed instantly with video clips and photos of the courtroom, showing the unique interaction between Emily and Rex. Commentators described it as a miracle in motion and the bond that saved a life. Parents watching from home were moved to tears, inspired by the courage of a child and the loyalty of a dog. News anchors repeatedly emphasized the rarity of such an event, noting that while trained dogs are invaluable tools in law enforcement, the extraordinary connection demonstrated by Emily and Rex was truly unprecedented. As Emily's testimony concluded, the judge addressed the court again, his voice resonating with awe and authority. "I have presided over countless trials in my career," he said, "but rarely have I witnessed a demonstration of courage, intuition, and trust that rivals what we have seen today. This child has not only guided a police dog to critical evidence, but has also reminded us all of the profound impact that innocence, bravery, and determination can have in even the most challenging circumstances." The courtroom erupted into quiet applause, a rare occurrence in such a formal setting. The jurors, still visibly affected, took notes and whispered among themselves, discussing the implications of Emily's role in the case. Their deliberations would later reflect the deep impression made by a child whose actions had transcended age, experience, and expectation. Officer Daniels, seated beside Rex, shook his head in quiet amazement. "I've trained dogs for years, and I've worked in countless high-stakes situations," he whispered to a colleague. "But I've never seen anything like this. She didn't just guide him, she inspired him." Even the defense attorney, now seated, seemed humbled by what he had witnessed. Attempts to downplay Emily's role had been rendered moot by the overwhelming evidence and the extraordinary circumstances. He exchanged a glance with his client, who sat silently, perhaps finally understanding the gravity of the situation and the remarkable nature of Emily's contributions. Across the courtroom, families, reporters, and community members sat in stunned silence, absorbing the story that had unfolded in front of them. Emily, aware of the attention but unshaken, glanced at her mother and gave a small, reassuring smile. Her hands rested gently on Rex's head, stroking his fur with a quiet, practiced familiarity. The dog responded with a soft wag of his tail, acknowledging the child's guidance and sharing in the emotional gravity of the moment. The bond between them had been visible throughout the courtroom, a silent testament to trust, intuition, and unwavering loyalty. As the day progressed, the judge allowed the proceedings to continue, but the courtroom's energy remained charged. Every observer, from the jury to the spectators, had been touched by the extraordinary bravery and calmness displayed by Emily. Her two simple words, "Follow me," had guided a police dog, uncovered critical evidence, and ultimately saved a life. The courtroom reaction was unreal, filled with awe, disbelief, and respect for a child whose courage had surpassed expectations and captured the imagination of everyone present. By the time the session concluded for the day, Emily and Rex had become the focus of national attention. Reporters clamored for interviews, neighbors shared their amazement, and law enforcement officers praised the duo's extraordinary teamwork. The courtroom, once a place of tension and fear, had been transformed into a theater of admiration and inspiration. Emily's calm demeanor, precise guidance, and the extraordinary instincts of Rex had created a moment that would be remembered for years to come. For Emily, the experience was overwhelming yet grounding. She had remained composed, focused on the task at hand, and allowed her instincts and connection with Rex to guide her. The courtroom reaction, while intense and surreal, was a testament to the bravery and intelligence she had displayed from the moment she spoke those two words. "Follow me." Rex, ever vigilant, stayed by her side, a loyal companion who had shared in every moment of the search, and now every second of recognition in court. And so, as the courtroom emptied for the day, the story of Emily and Rex spread beyond Maplewood. Headlines hailed the little girl who spoke two words to a police dog, and the unreal courtroom reaction that followed. The tale of bravery, trust, and extraordinary intuition resonated across the nation, inspiring countless people and reminding everyone that heroism comes in many forms, sometimes in the voice of a child and the loyalty of a dog. The courtroom had emptied, but the buzz of Emily's extraordinary bravery lingered long after the gavel fell. Reporters crowded the hallways, snapping photos and scribbling notes furiously, trying to capture every detail of a story that had captivated not just Maplewood, but the entire nation. Emily walked slowly, hand in hand with her mother Sarah, while Rex trotted faithfully beside them, his ears alert and his gaze following her every movement. What had begun as a terrifying search for a missing child had transformed into a tale of courage, trust, and the extraordinary bond between a child and a dog. Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. Neighbors, families, and local reporters stood behind barriers, eager to see the little girl who had accomplished the impossible. Children waved and cheered, their eyes wide with admiration. Parents whispered words of encouragement, acknowledging the bravery and composure of someone so young. Emily smiled faintly, acknowledging the applause without embarrassment. She had done what needed to be done, guided Rex, found the missing child, and remained calm under pressure. The accolades, though overwhelming, felt secondary to her. Officer Daniels led the duo through the throng, gently holding Rex on a leash while keeping a careful eye on the crowd. He was filled with pride and awe. "I've trained dogs for years," he said quietly to a colleague, "but never have I seen anything like the connection between a child and a canine. It's instinct, yes, but it's also trust, empathy, and courage combined in a way that can't be taught." The events of the day had reaffirmed the officer's belief that heroism comes in many forms, sometimes in the most unexpected packages. News vans and cameras surrounded Emily and her mother, broadcasting live to homes across the country. Anchors described the events with a mixture of excitement and reverence. Clips of Emily guiding Rex through the alleys, discovering the torn piece of clothing, and ultimately leading him to the missing child played repeatedly. Viewers were captivated by the poise of the young girl, the loyalty of the dog, and the seamless coordination that had resulted in a life being saved. Social media exploded with reactions, sharing clips and photographs with captions praising the bravery of the little girl who had spoken two words to a police dog. Back inside the courthouse, the legal proceedings continued, but Emily's role had already been immortalized. Officers, lawyers, and even the judge reflected privately on the unprecedented events they had witnessed. Some whispered about the rarity of such an occurrence, acknowledging that a child's courage and a dog's instinct had created a miracle that day. Families of the missing child expressed gratitude that went beyond words. Tears were shed quietly, hugs exchanged, and lives were forever changed. Emily had not only saved a life, but had also become a symbol of hope and inspiration. Sarah, Emily's mother, held her daughter close, overwhelmed by pride. "You were amazing," she whispered. Emily, her small hands resting on Rex's head, simply smiled. "I just wanted to help," she replied softly, recalling the simple words that had guided the dog and brought everything to fruition. The scene encapsulated the extraordinary bond between a child and a dog, a silent, unspoken understanding that transcended training and instinct, becoming something much more profound. Local authorities recognized the significance of Emily and Rex's actions. Officer Daniels and the police department arranged a ceremony to honor the young girl and her canine companion. The mayor of Maplewood presented Emily with a medal for bravery, and Rex received a commendation for his role in the life-saving search. Photographs captured the moment, Emily standing proudly, Rex by her side, and the community applauding the unusual but remarkable partnership that had saved a life. The story would remain a landmark in the city's history, inspiring generations to come. The courtroom footage and news segments quickly went viral. Headlines praised the little girl who spoke 2 words to a police dog, with phrases like, "Heroic child leads canine to save life," and "Unreal courtroom reaction leaves nation in awe." Social media users shared the story across platforms, expressing admiration for Emily's courage, humility, and remarkable intuition. Videos of Rex responding to Emily's gestures and commands spread widely, capturing the hearts of viewers everywhere. It was a tale of bravery, trust, and the unbreakable bond between a child and her dog. The story reached beyond Maplewood, inspiring police departments, schools, and families across the country. Officers shared Emily's story in training sessions, emphasizing the importance of observation, intuition, and trust. Teachers spoke of the courage and composure she had displayed, highlighting it as an example for students learning about bravery and responsibility. Families discussed the story at dinner tables, using it to teach children about empathy, courage, and the impact that even the smallest voice can have. Emily and Rex had become more than a local story. They had become symbols of hope and heroism on a national scale. Over the following weeks, Emily received letters of praise from community leaders, police officers, and even children she had never met. The letters were filled with admiration for her courage, acknowledgement of her calmness, and recognition of the remarkable bond she shared with Rex. Local businesses offered tokens of gratitude. Schools invited her to speak about her experience, and community centers celebrated her bravery with small gatherings. Despite all the attention, Emily remained humble, focused on the quiet satisfaction of knowing she had helped someone in need. The community held a special event to commemorate the successful search. Emily, Rex, and their families were invited to lead a walk through the streets where the search had taken place. Officer Daniels accompanied them, recounting moments of the day to the gathered audience. Residents followed closely, retracing the path Emily had taken with Rex. The walk was symbolic, a celebration of courage, trust, and the impact that even one child and one dog can have on a community. Children who had watched in awe during the original search now walked alongside Emily, inspired by her bravery and calm determination. Even months later, the impact of that day remained tangible. Emily's story continued to be referenced in news stories, police training sessions, and educational programs. Schools used her experience to teach children about courage, observation, and teamwork. Families discussed the power of intuition and trust, emphasizing that heroism is not always loud or grandiose. It can be quiet, subtle, and deeply profound. Emily and Rex's partnership became a lasting example of how bravery, empathy, and mutual understanding can overcome fear, danger, and uncertainty. For Emily, the experience shaped her outlook on life. She had discovered that even small voices can make a difference, that courage is often about remaining calm under pressure, and that trust, both in oneself and in others, can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Rex remained a constant companion, their bond strengthened by the shared experience. Together, they had not only saved a life, but also inspired a community, a nation, and countless individuals who would hear their story and be moved by their courage. The courtroom reaction, once described as unreal, had proven prophetic. The awe, admiration, and inspiration that Emily and Rex inspired in that room echoed far beyond its walls. The story of a little girl speaking 2 words to a police dog and guiding him to save a life had become a symbol of hope, courage, and the extraordinary potential of children and animals working in harmony. Maplewood, the nation, and the world would remember that day, the bravery of a child, and the loyalty of a dog who listened when it mattered most. Years later, Emily would recount the story not as a tale of fame, but as a testament to courage and empathy. She would explain how she had simply wanted to help, how she had trusted Rex, and how their combined instincts had led to saving a life. The courtroom reaction, the media coverage, and the national admiration were all secondary to the simple truth. 2 words, "Follow me," had changed everything. And Rex, faithful and steadfast, remained at her side, a silent hero in a story that would be remembered for generations. Maplewood would forever honor the partnership of Emily and Rex, ensuring that their story remained a source of inspiration and courage. Plaques, photographs, and stories of their bravery adorned local schools, libraries, and police stations. Community members often recounted the tale to children, highlighting the power of courage, trust, and quick thinking. Emily had shown that heroism does not depend on size, age, or training. It depends on heart, intuition, and the willingness to act when it matters most. And so, as the sun set over Maplewood, Emily and Rex returned home, their bond stronger than ever. The story of the little girl who spoke 2 words to a police dog, and the unreal courtroom reaction that followed, would live on forever. A testament to bravery, trust, and the extraordinary possibilities that arise when courage meets compassion.